my feel-good breakfast show.
Welcome to your Feel Good Breakfast Show. We're back in, and we got JB Sebastian here, who's about to give us the details of one of the most anticipated movies of the year. Oppenheimer is officially in cinemas, and this is why we need to just track through what this movie represents. And without too much of the socio-political sensitivity, of course, we've got to make sure that this movie... You! I'm just, you know what?
The dirty red.
Actually, wait, JP Sebastian.
Basically
you know
a Soviet.
Tell us about the movie. You know, I'm not in the mood to sense anything. Let's go.
Oh, no, don't worry. There's nothing too drastic that we're going to say. And the most important two words for that reason are Christopher Nolan,
sure.
who you love dearly, so he's the director. Obviously, people know The Dark Knight Rises, Inception, etc., etc.
Memento.
Interstellar, Memento, very good. People should be watching Memento.
They should.
Insomnia, etc., etc. He worked with Al Pacino.
Yes.
But look, we're going to have a look at his featurette about Oppenheimer, which is a biopic, the story about one of the most important inventions of all-time nuclear fission. Fission? Ooh, I should have been watching the movie more closely. But here's a little special featurette about releasing today, Oppenheimer by Christopher Nolan, starring Cillian Murphy.
The world will remember this day.
The Trinity test and the revelation of the first atomic explosion to the world was one of the most important moments in the 20th century.
It was a massive, miraculous project that many thousands of people were involved with. It touched government, it touched science, it had huge ramifications for all sorts of ordinary people.
The Trinity test and the development and the race and the fact that it was all attempting to save kind of humanity from fascism.
World War II would be over. Our boys would come home.
This is a matter of life and death. But I can perform this miracle.
What was really interesting was going back and trying to understand what these guys were thinking and the terrible decisions that were placed in front of them.
I don't know if we can be trusted with such a weapon, but I know the Nazis can't.
We live in the world that we live in because of what happened at Los Alamos.
Why would we go to the middle of nowhere for who knows how long?
How about because this is the most important thing to ever happen in the history of the world?
You know what? Christopher Nolan is so good at intensity, at drawing you in so close that he jump scares you with good narrative. And I think that's what I love about him so much. I saw Matt Damon there, and I saw a little article.
A bit of a spit of the most important moment
You see, there we go. So if I look at Matt Damon, he was going to say, I'm going to take a break from acting Honey in couples counseling with his wife. And he said, the only way... Yes, in couples counseling. No, it's important, you know, relationship maintenance. And
No, but I thought he was saying it casually, but sorry, continue.
You know, but so then he said he was going to retire, well, not retire, but take a break unless Nolan calls, and then Nolan called him. And I know why, this moment.
So you get to see Christopher Nolan with Matt Damon, with Robert Downey Jr. There's so many names. What's beautiful here is I mentioned Cillian Murphy, and I have to check whether it's Cillian or Cillian. I know that I've heard it pronounced Cillian. Anyway, besides the point, Cillian Murphy, people might remember as he was Scarecrow in the Christopher Nolan Batman movies. And he was originally supposed to be Batman before Christian Bale, and there were scheduling issues, etc., etc. So now he's really having his moment with Christopher Nolan, and what's beautiful is that there's so many extraordinary actors surrounding him, almost elevating him. So this has probably got Oscar gold all over it. Aside from Robert Downey Jr., Josh Hartnett is back out of nowhere. You got Matt Damon, Alex Wolff is fantastic too, Emily Blunt, Florence Pugh, Gary Oldman makes an appearance.
What?
Rami Malek, obviously winner for Bohemian Rhapsody. The cast is really intense in this, and they're all just happy to have a bitchy.
Because it's Nolan, that's why.
Exactly, and it reminds me a bit of with Thin Red Line. Thin Red Line, they filmed 6 hours. It was there was John Travolta and John Cusack, but there was just too much footage, so they had to throw away John Travolta. And it really feels like in this that there was so much sort of love and devotion that they probably shot for a movie to be 5 hours long. Movie ends up being 3 hours long. In IMAX terms, by the way, that's 20 kilometers worth of film.
Sure.
So now you have to ask the question, can Nolan do IMAX of a movie that's a talking movie more than a heist like Inception, more than a war movie like Dunkirk? I was pretty surprised, because I'm not religious about Christopher Nolan, I know you are. And he does very well to do just a talking heads kind of movie, which is, say, people talking through the blueprinting of the nuclear device. And that's what this is about, by the way. J. Robert Oppenheimer, who was the captain of the Manhattan Project, which was the project for America to win the arms race. Well, not even the arms race, but to get to weapons of mass destruction, and thus to the greatest terrorist attack of all time, killing 100,000 not just Japanese but Korean people, etc., etc. With the bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Yay, JP got political. There, just for you, Carl.
Thank you.
So,
I was hoping.
So that's also a good sign, though, from Christopher Nolan, because for me, he's a great technical director. But as far as narrative, he doesn't necessarily have the belief that I'm looking for, which is obviously good for a director to want to walk the fence or whatever. But here, whether it follows the story of him being grilled, which is, say, J. Robert Oppenheimer being grilled for his communist leanings, for his leftist leanings, etc., and how he might leak things to the Soviets or whatever, that is probably the main tension of the story, because it jumps between hearings with Congress and the development of the bomb, and obviously just being, as it is, Christopher Nolan movie, time jumps continuously and does so fluidly. The editing in Christopher Nolan movies are ridiculous. I don't know how you can go, cool, I'm watching a Nolan movie, I'm not going to be confused for a second. And he hops and jumps, you know, in all of his movies. The editing is pristine, it's ridiculous. So look, all the politics aside, he just meets you at the ground floor of, we need to talk about nuclear weapons. And that what this movie instills in you is complete terror, fear, in 2023, that we are probably 3 years away from the obliteration of the human race and every life form on Earth if we continue at this rate. We're now closer to nuclear obliteration than any other time in history. So before you go into left, right, whatever, he's like, let me just talk to your fear. And so there's a moment where it just ramps up towards the Trinity test of the nuclear device, which is the moment where the entire audience gasps and holds their breath. And there's one sound effect that made half the audience and myself burst into tears. It is so, so effective. But I'll tell you what, I'm going over my time here.
Let's see the next clip.
Let's continue with that featurette that we were showing you earlier, where Matt Damon was speaking about
humanity, we've been blinded by ambition and pursuit, and then the ramifications are something else.
It's happening, isn't it? I think that's why it's so bizarre and amazing that Chris is making this movie now. We're seeing parallels.
It's a profoundly overwhelming experience watching it. It's not a history lesson. It's not telling people this is what you must learn from this, but I think it's very clear it can reflect back on what's happening in the world today.
When I asked Chris what was interesting about why he wanted to make it, he said, I always found that very interesting that when they were doing the Trinity test, they were asked, what are the chances of this going wrong and it blowing up the entire world?
Chances are near zero.
Near zero.
What do you want from theory alone?
0 would be nice.
Detonator charged.
What is that decision to just still go ahead and do it?
It's an extraordinary moment in human history. And I wanted to take the audience into that room and be there when that button is pushed and really fully bring the audience to this moment in time.
3, 2, 1.
Yo, goosebumps all around for Oppenheimer. It's just in theaters. But of course, popcorns are quite important.
And not just Oscar bait a biopic, but a device in itself, like I said, of a warning. And so it gets 9 out of 10 from for Christopher Nolan. That's really high. Obviously, it's hard for a movie to be the definitive movie about the nuclear age. It is hard for a movie to be the slave movie, like 12 Years a Slave or whatever. No movie can hit those sort of notes perfectly. Or with Barbie, for example, trying to be the feminist movie. No movie can do that. It's hard. But for the time that it has, the 3 hours it gets, that's what you deserve, and that's what Nolan deserves. And 9 out of 10 is truly deserving.
9 out of 10.
Out today.
Oh, go watch it today.
IMAX.
It's a 9 out of 10, and you have to watch it at IMAX. I completely agree with you. JP Sebastian, we'll be back a little bit later for some other movies coming up. But don't worry, we've got some sporting action for you, and Graham is going to lead us through what is another exciting showpiece coming your way.